real savings fairly quickly. Support for PDAs for charting and medication administration, as well as basic office automation functions, calendars, email, medical references, and contact information is something we're piloting in 3 different services. We spent a lot of time trying to get, PDAs came into our hospital. We didn't know it, we found out about it. We thought we were ahead of the curve here. And then we went and met with some of the residents and they started pulling out their palms. And so then we went out and looked for devices like these that actually combined a few things. The most significant that sold this, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more bulky and awkward, but if you drop it, it doesn't break. And when residents were paying for their own, we're a teaching environment, residents aren't exactly the wealthiest guys in the world. When it didn't break, it really had some benefit to it. So we've tried to integrate residents who were early adopters of this kind of technology to get them as the pilot focus of this, have them report back to our HIPAA compliance committee and our quality council. Gives us an opportunity to share some of the real problems we need them to solve while they're out there experimenting. We intend to expand our IP phones for our interpreters program. We have a serious language and communication problem, especially in the emergency room and the OR. So what we've done is we put IP phones that they can take right to the bedside, hand a phone to the patient, conference call with interpreter. It's expanded our on-site interpreter resource capability, and we have contracts with 2 outside services to do interpreter services. We're also talking with Marquette about the use of wireless in cardiology, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do with the
Could you tell real briefly what you're doing on charting on PDA?
We're charting medication distribution, and we have medicine residents who are tracking to-do lists, printing out charted notes of activity they did with the patients at the nurse station. Those are the 3 areas that we have pilots going right now.
Are those interfaced with your SMS system?
Actually, we run SMS as our patient management system. Our computerized patient record system is the HDS per se system, and they are not interfaced directly. It's a server interface. So we're capturing the data to a server and then running a more standard type interface with per se right now. But we're talking with them about where their plans are for integrating PDAs with their environment. We're very concerned about PDAs. When we sat down and started looking at these devices and the policy framework that we have to build around them, we realized we were dealing with an animal that was just a little bit different than a laptop. There's an awful lot of patient data that you need to take off of this and make sure that it's stored on a server environment, that people are making treatment decisions, especially in a teaching environment like ours. You have a lot of caregivers acting on a patient. You want to make sure that they're not working on somebody's 2-hour-old notes when somebody else has administered meds or made some other kind of treatment action in that time period. So getting this oriented back to a server environment is one of the things that we're exploring. And there are a number of companies that are doing that. I know there's some McKesson people here. McKesson's got a pilot, I think, in Dallas using this for medication administration. SMS and Cerner are developing PDA-type integration applications. The company that I think that has the most medication applications in place right now is Atros. I don't know if you've heard of it. They're active in St. Peter's in New York, and I think they have a pilot at North Shore and at Mayo Clinic. They're trialing these kind of devices for medication administration. But we're looking at policies for things like medical reference information. You can put a PDR on this, and the younger, more aggressive physicians are going to keep it current all the time. We're not sure everybody else is going to be as comfortable. So we're looking at policies around synchronization, making sure that everybody's working off of the quote approved set of information, reference resources that the hospital's clinical staff have determined are appropriate. They do walk out the door. We spent a lot of time with the risk management folks and some of the folks who got real concerned that this was walking out the door. So what's the difference? You know they're taking the floppies home. You know they're taking the charts with them. This is happening. So it's there. You don't want to pretend it's not. I would be willing to bet, for those of you who don't think your doctors are using these for clinical data, I'll bet if you did a little survey, you would find out that some of them are, and that data is going back and forth to their office with them. So it's a policy area that we're trying to get our medical staff participating in how we're going to address the solutions. I wanted to throw up, this is an additional slide to it, some of the areas of technology that we're looking at that is kind of challenging. Mobile computing devices, lap phones and things like that are starting to become something that we think, again, like these PDAs and Palm Pilots, are going to start walking in the door. As they get marketed, the physicians are going to be our first pressure point, and we're hearing from the retail industries that they expect to have to support their customers. We would expect our patients and their visitors are going to be walking in with mobile devices that they are becoming used to retrieving information from, tracking things related to their schedules, their activities. So we can see an environment where we're trying to deliver post-discharge treatment information to relatives for geriatric population, where they're going to want to make some notes, they're going to want to record that, and they're going to want to use these kind of devices. So we kind of think similar to the strategy of the retail environment, adopting this and being able to support it may actually give us a competitive advantage in the market. Personal area networks, looking at that is kind of an interesting thing. This gets out of the area that I actually focus on for savings here. The materials handling and equipment management is a nice area to save a lot of money with wireless devices. Storage space, you can really get a return on it. But when you start looking at some of the more exciting developments with wireless devices, where you've got a handheld, you've got a microphone that's without wires all attached and a computer clipped to your belt, those kind of things are not quite that far away, so we're tracking that technology to see when we think it may be mature enough. As I said earlier, there's a lot of vendors who are moving their applications to either transaction-oriented or small form factor screen-oriented devices. We think a lot of that change is going to happen. Some of them are doing it with front-end kind of applications, with a server that does a more standard HL7 type interface. But that change is definitely happening with all of the leading HRS vendors that we're involved in. And then we're looking at RFID technology, which we think is probably very exciting to us, but probably not the panacea. Two applications that we've seen that are relatively affordable right now are in materials handling, where you can put active RFID tags on packages, and as you wheel them past the wireless access point, you can receive 40 boxes of whatever instantaneously. That's pretty exciting stuff if you can cut FTEs out of things that don't add value to your healthcare services and redirect those to your clinical operation. The other thing that we saw that was very exciting is a theme park is actually giving out devices that are similar to a wristwatch that are active RF to children as they come through the theme park, and they have little display screens that you can actually track who's where as they go through the theme park environment. For us, that's an interesting way of dealing with how do I track the movement of biomedical equipment. We're 22 floors, and trying to find that medical equipment when you need it and who left it where last is kind of difficult. So we think that's a possibility, and we think that may be a way for us to solve some of the problems with patient identification in some of the settings that are a little more difficult to scan wristbands, ICUs, places like that. You don't want to be as intrusive with the patient. So that's